So I don't have any Moana props, unfortunately, and I don't have any. I could have sworn I had a Moana shirt somewhere, and I just can't figure out where it is. I looked in this closet. I have a different closet. I looked all over. I couldn't find it. I could have sworn I had one. I know I have a Raya and the Last Dragon shirt, so I'm covered for that one. But I didn't have any Moana shirts. I could have sworn I did. Oh, okay, so I have this undersea looking forest type shirt, like seaweed and a kelp forest type thing. Because of course, today we're going to be talking about Moana, which came out in 2016. It's of course the story of this young Polynesian, Pacific Islander girl who ends up, sailing beyond, the borders of her island and ends up having to, befriend a god and then save a god. Because, duh. Well, befriend a demigod, trick a giant crab, and then fight a lava monster. And do some amazing singing along the way. Okay, so yeah. Moana, I brought out some of my water-based themed things. I got Sobel, whatever you want to refer to it as. I got a whale shark. I got a hammerhead shark. I got Poplio. I got a seashell. I don't remember where I got the seashell from. I got Mudkip. I got Manaphy. I got a shark. Great white shark. Maui does turn into a great white shark at some point. If I had a stuffed manta ray, which is what the grandma turns into, I would use that, but I don't have one anymore. I brought Stitch because Lilo and Stitch, and he's blue, and Lilo is also of like Pacific Islander descent because she's of Hawaiian descent, and the Polynesians had, spread out from the islands in the Pacific, and then it eventually ended up, getting to Hawaii and colonizing that. And, colonizing all, so many of these other islands along the way, of course, dozens and hundreds of, small little islands, some of which are probably gone just over the course of, several thousand years, when the, Polynesians were sailing and everything. And then I have Torchic because, Heihei. Heihei is the rooster friend. I also pulled out this. I can get it off my head without looking stupid. This is kind of just a little compass looking thing. Now, they kind of go over this in the movie, and they went over this a bit more in the like the behind the scenes stuff, but the Polynesians didn't use any, instruments or anything like that. They didn't use compasses. They used the stars to navigate, and we see Maui and Moana both doing this throughout the course of the movie, and so we get kind of used to seeing that. They measured the distance with like their hands for the stars and everything like that, determining, okay, well, we need to keep going that way and that way, or nope, we got to go back this way, we got to go that way. And they would consistently, be able to sail hundreds, thousands of miles to get to another island. And, they would do wayfinding and stuff like that. Sailing, voyaging, everything like that, which of course things that are covered in the movie. So let's get started. I'm going to put my compass back on. Okay, so as I said, Moana came out in 2016. The movie has a great soundtrack. I love the soundtrack. I love the songs that are in the movie, even just the scoring of things in the movie. I love how they integrated both, Polynesian sounds and music and language into the songs. And, you can find the English translations of the different Polynesian, language in the songs. You can find the translations of those. And they're still just as, beautiful as, the type of songs that you would kind of hear, from Disney in and of itself. So the movie actually kind of opens with a song / story, that is, and I'm going to apologize now. I'm going to apologize now if I stumble over the words, if I mispronounce the words. The names, since I've heard them enough, I should be able to say them correctly. But some of the words, if I mispronounce them, I apologize. I'll apologize ahead of time. So the first song / the opening of the movie is Tulo Tagoa, something like that. And we are introduced to the goddess Te Fiti, who is this island goddess. She's this like huge home central island type of a thing. And then she like spread her power out using her, her jeweled heart to spread, different islands all over, to give, people and animals places to live, on the islands, and give places for the birds to rest on the islands, of course. And, we see her do all this in the beginning, and then she takes us, she slumbers for a while. And then we are introduced to the character Maui. Maui is a demigod, and he has this magical hook that allows him to shapeshift and transform into different animals. And one of the things is he is like this, brave hero Maui type character in his mind, and in the time frame that he does this, he sneaks into Te Fiti, into the island that is Te Fiti as she rests, and he goes in and he uses his hook to steal her heart, this little green gem. I thought I had like a green type gem that I could use, but I didn't. I was hoping I could, but I didn't. Probably buried somewhere in my room, one of the closets. But he steals the heart, and then he soars off as like an eagle. He likes to turn into like an iguana and an eagle and a bug and a sharks at various points in time. I think he turns into a whale at one point. He shapeshifts all over the place. And he, is escaping, and then he ends up getting attacked by this giant lava monster called Taka. And it, attacks Maui, and Maui tries to fight it, but he's, knocked away, sent flying, and his hook and the heart of Te Fiti then fall to the bottom of the ocean. Lost. And then we come to like 1,000 years later, a millennium later, and we are of course introduced to this old woman who is telling this story to a bunch of like little kids, like 3 years old max type of thing, for however old they are. But she's telling them this story, and like we have like the beautiful illustrations that we see that are like the illustrations of Maui and the illustrations of like Taka and the different evil creatures and stuff like that inhabit the realm of monsters. And the realm of monsters, all the monsters want the heart of Te Fiti, and the old woman, who is later revealed to be Grandma Tala, and she is kind of she refers to herself as, I'm the village crazy lady. This is my job. She's the mother of the current chief of the tribe. Her granddaughter is one of the little children that we see sitting in the front row, the one that is not terrified of the story, because all the others are just like, oh my god. And then the little one, Moana, oh, yes, keep going, that sounds fun, keep going, I like this story. I'm like, okay, I don't know which ones of those children I would be. Depends on the story, depends on, I guess, how old I am. Right now I'm like, okay, keep going. If I was a little kid, probably not. But she's, the Grandma Tala is explaining that, and Taka is still out there, and we don't leave the outside of, we don't leave the barrier reef that's around our island. We don't leave that. And, there's these monsters out there, and Taka is still out there, and Taka is spreading like darkness, using that to, corrupt islands, kill the islands, destroy them. And what ends up happening, and she's like, and one day, someone from this island will, leave our barrier, will leave the, sail beyond the reef, and will, travel across the sea and, return the heart of Te Fiti. Legend has it type of thing. And we are then introduced to Tui, who is the chief of the village. He is also Moana's father. And he's like, no, Mom, just stop telling him that stuff. There's no monsters. There's no Taka. We live on this island because it's safe. We don't go beyond the reef because it's too dangerous. We have everything that we need on the island. And, you know, during this whole time, Moana, small child Moana, has like wandered off and made her way to the beach. And this is where we get another song. It's referred to as an innocent warrior. And I think it's just sung in Polynesian as well. The first song is also sung in Polynesian. And we watch as like little Moana, like finds her way down to the beach. And she sees this shell in the water and she wants to get this, nice big shell. And then she sees these birds trying to attack this little baby turtle, little baby sea turtle that like just hatched. So she goes and she kind of pulls a Stitch, because in the credits of Lilo and Stitch, we see Stitch like using a leaf to like, shade a little turtle as it's making its way to the ocean, so it can get into the ocean and live. Moana does the same thing with this little baby turtle. She uses this giant frond palm leaf type thing to like shade the baby turtle as it walks down the beach and like chews away the birds and like helps the baby turtle and gets it to the ocean. And then the ocean starts being weird. It like pulls back a certain part so she can get the shell, and then it like leads her to another shell and to another shell, like slowly pulling back and back more and more as Moana picks up more shells. And so there's like this wall of water around Moana. So kind of just picture the Red Sea, the parting of the Red Sea, although on a much, much smaller scale and for a small child. And then the water kind of comes to life. It doesn't form like a complex shape or anything like that. It just kind of like comes to life and like comes down and it, like messes with Moana's hair, plays with her a little bit, and then it like tries to, it like floats her this little green glowing gem that is quite obviously the heart of Te Fiti. And Moana picks that up, and then we hear her father calling in the background, and he's coming to try to find her, of course, very panicked, and the ocean like grabs her, fixes her hair, shoves the shells in her hand, like shoves her back to the shore. She's like just maybe like, I would say maybe like 10, 20 feet at max out from the shore, so not really all that far. Maybe like more like 10 to 15 feet from the shore. And like pushes her back to the shore, and then like her father grabs her and like, he's like, "Oh, Moana, you're not supposed to go to the ocean," and like starts taking her off. And I love this image that it's like he's like, "Moana, you're not supposed to go into the ocean," and she just gives him this. Well, when you freeze frame it, she kind of gives him this look of, "Really, Dad? I'm not buying this." And and then we get the next song, which is "We Are," which is sung by Tui and his wife Sina and the villagers. And it's, we are, it's like, we are, this life on the island. This is where we stay because this is safe. This is, we have the coconuts, we have our fishing. We use the coconuts and the coconut trees and to make all of this stuff. And admittedly, they do. The Polynesians, this is very much true. The Polynesians had spent, they spent thousands of years being able to figure out all these different ways of using coconuts. You can, peel off the outside of the skin and you can, drink the liquid that's inside. You can, ferment things. You can, shred the outside of it and use that for things. You can eat the fruit of the coconut. I'm not a big fan of coconuts, but, if I'm stranded on a desert island and they got coconuts, I'll eat the coconuts. And, they use like the leaves to help make different type, clothing and jewelry and reeds and, instruments and like all this other stuff. I mean, like they have like other trees on the island that they use as well, but they're able to use so much of the, of the coconut tree. And even to this day in, Polynesian culture, they still use so much of this, so much of the same stuff, the same techniques and everything like that they use to make this different, fabrics and textiles and tools and ropes and all this other stuff. And I love that they do that, and they're like, showing that in the movie, and like we just keep seeing kind of a little bit more how different Moana is. Oh, let's, everybody draw a picture. She draws a boat. Look at her weave baskets. She, weaves a little tiny boat. She keeps trying to sneak off to the water, and her father keeps dragging her back. Again and again. She wants to go to that. And Moana, as the oldest and the only child of Tui, she is the next in line to become the chieftain, to become the next ruler of the island, the leader of her people. And so, she hasn't made up, she's not quite ready to the point where she's ready to do that, where she's like, I haven't made up my mind that I will take up on that responsibility. And, throughout the course of the song, we also see her grandmother, and we see, how different her grandmother is. Most people don't go down to the beach unless they're, going out to, go on the fishing boats and go to fish around, within the barrier of the reef and everything. And, but we see the grandma down by the beach a lot, and she's like dancing and, kind of talking to the waves and everything like that. And, they show various types of the Polynesian dancing throughout the course of this movie as well. Because there's some that are, different hand gestures mean different things throughout the course of, the dance and stuff like that, and based on different cultures, because even, it's like all, Pacific Islander, but they each, different islands have, different cultures, slightly different stories, slightly different gods or goddesses, depending on stuff. Slightly different techniques and how they dance and stuff like that. I mean, like, they're all kind of descendant from, like, the same thing, but they've all also just kind of, like, changed, oh, well, we do this and we do that, different things like that. And I'm sure throughout the course of history in, Polynesia, in, within the, the Pacific Islands, unfortunately, I'm sure there were times when war broke out between, neighboring islands that were so close, but, at the time frame, it seems like, well, they haven't left the island for like 1,000 years type of thing. And, Moana still, adores her grandmother, and, we see Moana has now grown up and everything. And it's time for her to make this decision whether she is going to fully like embrace her role as heir to the chieftain. And she does, and we get the little kind of coronation type ceremony that she goes through. And then she starts taking her role much more seriously. She's helping fix temples. She's, helping train children with the dancing. She's helping a guy who's getting his first tattoo, which is like the tribal art and the tribal ink that you see, like her father has it, her grandma has it on her back. I'm assuming her mother has it somewhere. Forgive me if I missed this, but I don't think Moana herself has any tattoos. I could be wrong. I just don't remember seeing any on her throughout the course of the movie, and I don't remember seeing anything where it specifically states that she has one. If she did have one and I just missed it, I apologize. If she did have one, then she would be the second Disney princess to have a tattoo, because, Pocahontas, who is, Disney princess, she has the tattoo on her arm. But I don't think we saw Moana have any. And and like even to this day in Polynesia, in throughout the Pacific Islands and everything, and into New Zealand and all of that, they still do the the tribal tattoos, and it's a very painful process. It takes so many hours, so many days. It's, lots of, pain and, stuff like that. And I'm assuming at some point you may not necessarily go numb to the pain, but you just kind of get used to the time when, when the pain's happening and everything. And, I mean, they still use like a lot of the same types of like ancient tools and stuff like that they used, even that we see being used in the movie. But they also have probably like, okay, well, we're going to, I mean, like, I'm sure they knew that it was a good idea to like thoroughly clean the different tools in between different people. Even back then, I would assume, even, during the time frame when like Moana is supposedly happening, I would hope that they would still at least be like, okay, well, we should probably wash these in between people. But nowadays, I think we see them being a little bit more sterile at times. Like they probably like clean the things like with actual, sanitizing and stuff like that now, and different things like that, but the process is still pretty much the same. And we see Moana helping a guy through with that and everything, and it's going to take him a while to get that tattoo. And we see, she's just, getting better and better, and we see her, throughout the course of, both, we are in this beginning part of it here, where we see her growing up. We see her have kind of two little animal sidekicks. One is a pig named Poa, and one is this little kind of idiotic rooster named Heihei, who keeps trying to eat rocks and is like has no self-preservation, and is just, I don't know how to describe Heihei beyond that. And one of the things that happens is the coconuts start getting sick. The coconut trees start getting sick and not producing, healthy coconuts. There's like this black stuff inside the coconuts, and the fish aren't being caught in their nets and stuff like that and in their traps, so they're not able to have the fish that they need. And Moana says, well, why don't we fish beyond the reef? Like they've checked all the different places around the island, all these different places where they fish and everything, and Moana is just like, well, why don't we fish beyond the reef? Because there has to be fish out there. They're just not coming in here. And, her father is, of course, very much against this. He's been keeping her away from the ocean. Surprisingly enough, Moana, I do believe, means ocean in Polynesian. And, her father, is like, no, you're not doing that. We're not going beyond the reef. That's, the last time we're going to talk about this and everything. And she goes off and she's angry, and like she talks with her mother, and her mother explains to her that when her father was younger, he tried to go beyond the reef with a friend. And there had been this big storm, and unfortunately, the father had made it back, but the friend hadn't. And the mom's like, and Sina, who's the mom, is just like, your father is just trying to protect you. He doesn't want to watch you get hurt the way that his friend got hurt. The way that his friend died. He doesn't want to, watch you die that way or worry about you dying because of that. And, then we get the Moana's, the big song from Moana, and of course, one of the big songs, which is, of course, is How Far I'll Go, which, is, she's like, she starts off at the beach, and she's like, I just, I want to go further. I want to see how much further I can go. I still want to be this perfect daughter and this perfect, ruler type of a thing. But I something's pulling me to go beyond. She's like, running through the island, and, we see her seeing everything around the island. Of course, she's like, I know everyone on this island, and we all have this place and this purpose on the island. And, everybody has this, place where they survive, and like everybody's happy. It's not like anybody's, it's not like anybody's like, oh my god, I want to leave this stupid island. They're safe on the island. And that's kind of like this whole thing of like, why would we leave the island? We're safe here type of thing. They're very complacent in that regard. I can understand why her father, because he tried to leave, that didn't work out so well. But one of the other things that happens is her father had taken her up to the top of the mountain. And on top of the mountain, there's these stack of stones, of flat stones that are all stacked on top of each other. And he explains, each one of these stones represents one of our ancestors. This one on the top is mine, and then my father's, and my grandfather's, and my great-grandfather's, all the way down to the bottom. And the ones on the bottom are just like covered in moss and stuff like that. And the one on top is starting to grow moss and everything. And he's like, when it is your turn, you will take your own rock and you will place it on top of this, on top of this pile, making this whole island rise even higher. And, Moana, throughout the course of the song, How Far I'll Go, she's made her way back up to the top of the mountain, and she's like, getting ready to like, I'm gonna put my stone here, and I know I'm gonna make that decision. And then she ends up, she's like, kind of no, and then she goes back to the boats, and her and the pig, Poa, kind of sail off, trying to go beyond the reef, which unfortunately doesn't go well. The boat crashes, is knocked around by the waves, and Moana, kind of gets trapped in the reef and ends up kind of getting her foot hurt, but she escapes and gets back to the island. And, the pig is now terrified of the boats and runs away. The grandma shows up and she's like, whatever just happened, blame it on the pig. I love this grandma. She has the same type of attitude as the grandma from Book of Life. If you don't know what the Book of Life is, go watch my video of the Book of Life. The grandma's awesome in that too. Different grandmas, both awesome. And what ends up happening is, the grandma and Moana end up talking, and like Moana's like, I'm not going out on the ocean again. I'm gonna go put my rock on top of the mountain and stay here and be the chief that I'm supposed to be. And the grandma's like, okay, and just walks over to the ocean, and then she kind of like stands in the ocean, and she's doing like dancing with like, we see all these, they're not stingrays, they're manta rays. There is a difference. That are all like kind of swimming around her, and she's like, when I die, I want to come back as one of these. Otherwise, I chose the wrong tattoo. So, she still got this, tattoo of a manta ray on her back. And the daughter's like, you're not going to tell dad what I did. She's like, I'm his mother. I don't have to tell him anything. And like, she's like, Moana's just used to her grandma being this, eccentric type of thing. She's like, I'm the village crazy lady. It's my right to do this, type of thing. It's my right to, chastise my son and like all this other stuff. And what ends up happening is Moana basically tells her grandma, we get the moment where Moana's grandmother is like, is there something you want to hear type of thing? And she leads her to this blocked off part of a waterfall, and she tells Moana to, go into the waterfall, go through this cave, go into this area, and bang on the drums, and you will find out, this big secret. And Moana makes her way into the cave, and she finds all of these huge boats, that are all these, Polynesian style boats that are just huge and, meant for sailing and all of that. And she goes up and she, finds this giant drum, and she beats on it, and like everything, the torches light themselves, and we get the song of We Know the Way, which is sung to Moana by the spirits of her ancestors, and how they used to, sail around, find islands, could navigate so easily, could, all this stuff, it was like we, spread from island to island, and, founded all these different, towns and villages and, islands and everything like that. And we would, move on and keep going and keep traveling, going further and further. And then it just kind of stopped. And this is true to something that actually happened in kind of what they could tell from like the history of the Polynesian islands, is that, they had, gone so far, and then like they like stopped for like 1,000 years. They stopped sailing, super far and like discovering new islands and everything for like 1,000 years. They stopped, and then like 1,000 years later, it started up again. And that's when they just, that's when they then, found Hawaii and like other stuff. They go through like there was like Samoa and Fiji and Tahiti and like all this other stuff. And New Zealand, like all these other places that they ended up finding, of course. But like there was like this 1,000-year gap in actual history, not like because like they just like stopped existing or anything like that, but just because they just stopped traveling for a while. And like the film writers are like, well, let's work that into the film. They've been kind of on the islands for like 1,000 years, so now it's like 1,000 years later. And Moana comes rushing out of the cave and says, we were voyagers, we used to sail and everything. And the grandma's like, yep. And she takes Moana back to the ocean, and then this is when Moana, kind of meets the ocean again for the first time in, however many years since she was a child. And the ocean, was like, I need you to come with me. I need, well, the ocean doesn't talk. The ocean more like pantomimes things to a degree, like, yeses, nos, that way, up, different things like that. And the grandma then has like this abalone shell necklace that like can open and close. It has like a hinge on it, and inside of it is the heart of Te Fiti, and she gives that to Moana, and she's like, I thought it was a dream, that I met, kind of played with the ocean, and then I saw this. And grandma's like, no, it wasn't a dream, and this is the heart of Te Fiti, and you have to go and find Maui, and then travel, and then take him to to Te Fiti, and to restore the heart and everything. And Moana, is like, I will do this, and she runs off, and she, her father's having a village meeting because like, crops are dying, can't fish, all that type of stuff. Things are starting to get worse. And Moana runs into the meeting, and she's like trying to, convince her father that they need to go sail and that they need to return the heart. And big blow up happens between her and her father, and then her father's gonna go burn the boats, and then her, and then like the grandma is sick, and she's dying, and she's kind of like held on long enough to like tell Moana about this and everything, and set Moana on the path. And she gives Moana the necklace, and take this, and you will find take this, and you will find Maui, and you will grab him by the ear, and you will say, I am Moana of Motunui. You are going to board my boat, and you will sail across the sea to return the heart of Te Fiti. The whole big speech and everything. And Moana, she rushes off. She gathers food, and her mother actually kind of, helps her with that. And she runs off and sails off, steals like the smallest boat that's in the cave, and sails off. And we see kind of like this effect as like the grandma dies. Like we see this giant spirit of like a manta ray come sailing through the water, and it kind of helps Moana get over the reef and get into the ocean. And of course, Moana ends up finding out that Heihei, who's the chicken, somehow ended up on the boat. Somehow, the chicken wandered off and it somehow found its way into the boat. And it like freaks out when it sees that it's like in the water. It's just like it's like hiding in like this little storage area on the boat where she like Moana like put her food and everything like that. And the bird just like pops up and like Moana takes the coconut shell off of its head. And it like looks around, like just squawks super loud, and Moana like makes it stop, and like the rooster kept falling into the ocean, and the ocean kept putting it back on the boat, and Moana has to kind of sail a little bit and kind of sail on her own, and then she ends up having to like sail to this beneath this constellation that looks like a hook is like where Maui is. And she kind of argues with the ocean at some point, and she ends up, getting knocked unconscious, and then she wakes up the next morning on this small island that is only inhabited by Maui. And she, like, got angry at the ocean, and then she realizes that she's on the right island. And then she ends up interacting with Maui. He finds a boat. He finds this boat that she brought with her, that she sailed on, and he thinks that it's a gift from the gods for him. And he ends up then, like he's just like acting like this big over the top, like, celebrity type thing. It's like, oh yeah, hey, you want me to autograph something? And grabs the oar, and he grabs Heihei and like signs the oar with like a heart and like the hook. And if you write with a bird, it's called tweeting. Thank you, Dwayne the Rock Johnson. Did you come up with that on your own, or did they put that in the script itself? And like, he ends up doing this big song and everything that's, you're welcome, where he explains all of his great deeds. I did this and I did that and I conquered this monster and I pulled up this island and I did all this amazing heroic stuff and everything. And Moana's like, no, the main thing you're known for right now is taking the heart of Te Fiti and kind of plunging the world into darkness to a degree. And he's just like, oh well. And he like traps her in this cave and as he distracted her with the song. And the song is very fun, I will admit. And he, tries to steal her boat, and she like escapes from the cave and gets back onto the boat with him. And he keeps trying to throw her off the boat. So he keeps like yeeking her off the boat, I guess would be the correct way of or the millennial way of putting it. Keeps throwing her off the boat, and the water keeps plopping her back on the boat. And he's just like, I did not see that coming. And like at one point she even like grabbed his ear and was like, I am Moana of Motunui, and you're going to board my boat and you're going to help me return the heart of Te Fiti. Maui is of course not concerned at all about the heart of Te Fiti, not concerned at all about helping Moana. His whole thing is he wants to get his hook back because he hasn't had his hook for 1,000 years, so he didn't have his magical powers and everything like that. I would assume he still has like heightened endurance, and he's been on an island for 1,000 years, and he doesn't look like he's aged. So I'm sure that it's kind of like the whole, well, he's not going to die that way type of thing. He's immortal in that sense. I mean, in Greek mythology, the demigods, because of them being half human, they could still die, and they could, they only lived, maybe a little bit longer than like an average human did. But this type of demigod is much more, oh yes, he is able to, he's, is extremely long lasting type of thing if he's lived on this island for, 1,000 years on his own. And Moana and him are, they keep arguing and everything like that. And they end up, she explains that, I have the heart of Te Fiti. And then he like throws the heart of Te Fiti into the ocean at one point, like not Titanic style, but like throws it, and like the ocean brings it back and gives it back to them. And then they end up getting attacked by these things that are called Kakamora, who are these little coconut-looking imp things that are initially cute and then turn quite scary. And they have like this giant ship, and they like attack. I don't know where the Kakamora came from in the Polynesian mythology, but they're kind of interesting. And Maui and Moana are kind of attacked by them, and like they attack their Moana's little boat, and then you know they grab Heihei because like Heihei has like swallowed the heart of Te Fiti, and Moana has the Kakamora have like grabbed Heihei and they're trying to escape with him, and Moana ends up, jumping onto their ship, and she's just like, oh, I know how exactly handle coconuts, and she takes her oar and she keeps like bashing the coconuts around, like knocking them away and everything, and that's just funny. And she gets Heihei back, and her and Maui, escape from the Kakamora, and they end up, sailing a bit further, and Maui is he very much obviously knows how to sail because he just like instantly starts sticking to like knows how to handle the ropes, knows how to measure and everything like that, like all this other stuff. So he knows exactly what he's doing. He's been off of he's been trapped on the island for 1,000 years, but it's kind of like I'm assuming it's like once you can do it, once you have that in your system, it's kind of like riding a bicycle and you can just kind of pick back up on it to a degree. Also, I don't remember if we ever find out exactly how old Maui is beyond the fact that he's obviously over 1,000 some years old. And I don't know 100% about Maui and actual Polynesian mythology, but given everything that they say that he's done, he's probably also quite old and ancient to a degree in that way as well. And he has all of these. I love Maui's tattoos all over his body that are like depictions of like his different deeds, different parts of his story. And of course, he has this like little mini Maui that's a tattoo on him that like can jump around his body from like, peck to peck to his back to his arm to his, jump all over the place for him. And the mini Maui is kind of like Maui's conscience. And like it's like, no, we have to help the girl, we have to do this, we have to do that type of thing. Tries to actually help Moana convince Maui that they need to go and they need to help Te Fiti and return her heart and everything like that. Maui is of course like, no, I just want my hook, and and Moana's like, fine, then we'll get your hook and then we'll go see Te Fiti and we'll give her back her heart that you stole, type of thing. And side note about the mini Maui. The mini Maui is it's the combination of like 2D animation on a 3D image, which is awesome. And it's actually Mini Maui was actually animated by the same guy that drew Genie in Aladdin. So it's that same guy. It's that same kind of like humor thrown in there at times for the Mini Maui tattoos. And I just find that so funny that he's like the same one that did that. That's just so fun to think about. And, Maui and Moana start making their way to this realm of monsters. And I don't remember the exact name of what they call the realm of monsters, but they start making their way to the island that take them into the realm of monsters. And Maui is like kind of refusing to teach Moana how to sail or wayfinding. She's like, I'm self-taught. And he's like, yeah, you're not very well self-taught, type of thing. And the Kakamora had been using like blow darts. And one of them still got stuck in the boat. And the ocean like picks it up out of the boat and then like stabs it into Maui's butt cheek, which is funny. And so he just kind of like gets paralyzed and he's like laying down on the deck. And he's like, blow dart in my butt cheek. Okay. And Moana is just, she's like, okay, well, since you can't do that, you're just going to have to tell me how to wayfind. And, like, it's kind of like this trial and error type of thing again and again and again. And he's, like, tricking her at times and stuff like that. And eventually, they do get to where this island that leads them into the realm of monsters. There was a proper name for it, but it's not in my notes, so I apologize. And Moana had actually had this dream where she saw, like, her island and her parents just being engulfed by the darkness. And like before she left the island, her grandmother had like shown her this spot on the island that was already like being infected by like the darkness and stuff like that that's coming from Taka. And Maui and Moana have to climb to the top of this really tall island, and that's like a barren, desolate type thing, and they climb all the way to the top. Maui has kept trying to fatten up Heihei because he wants to eat this. He wants to eat the chicken. I'm assuming he survived on like fish for the past 1,000 years, so I would assume chicken would be a slightly different thing. At least a different type of meat to deal with. Different flavors, but Heihei doesn't have much meat on his bones, and like anytime that he starts pecking the ground, it's like on like a rock or something like that, and he just doesn't understand. I don't know how the chickens survive this long. Um, and what ends up happening is, Maui and Moana climb to the top of the tower, and at some point they're having this argument about like, I don't need a princess. I'm not a princess. I'm not a princess. I'm the daughter of a chief. If you wear a dress and you have an animal sidekick, you're a princess. That's, just like all this whole thing of, if, of everyone, of everyone that your village could have sent, they sent someone who was like this, girl who couldn't even sail and everything like that. And she's like, I was chosen by the ocean. Just this whole argument that they have while they're climbing, while they're sailing, and then like while they're climbing to the top of the mountain. And then they, have to get into the mountain. And it's this kind of, Maui has to do this dance that's that's basically like a version of like this, Polynesian dancing that is much more the more hard sounds and hard movements as opposed to like the soft movements and stuff like that are in some of the dancing. And it opens this kind of, mouth gate at the top of the mountain, and then they, Maui jumps down, and he's like, "The realm of monsters is no place for you," and he jumps down. And then Moana follows after him. And like Mini Maui has been keeping track of like every time Moana got one over on him. And, which I just find funny. And, they end up in the realm of monsters, and he's like, well, we're trying to find Tamatoa, who it's like, if anybody in this world, if anybody has my hook, it's him. And they end up finding their way down. The dog's outside. They end up, finding their way to like Tamatoa's lair, and Maui kind of sneaks up on Moana and she punches him in the face, which I find funny. And what ends up happening is, Maui basically uses Moana as bait to get to Tamatoa. He's like, well, he really likes shiny things, so he dresses her up in like this shiny stuff and like sends her into the cave, and it's just like, just keep him distracted. And Moana, goes in, and she like, fine, and she, the crab wakes up, and he like, grabs her, and, he's like, little human, kind of, what are you doing here, and everything like that. And Moana's like, she like distracts him, she's like, I came because we've heard such great tales of this giant crab, and all this other stuff, and, tell me more about you, type of thing. And he's like, are you trying to get me to talk about myself? Because if so, I will gladly do so. And then, of course, then we get the song Shiny, which is just him talking about, like, how shiny he is and everything like that. And, then Maui shows up, and he's trying to get his fish hook, but he can't transform correctly. And then, we get this whole kind of big kind of chase/fight sequence between Maui and the crab, Tamatoa and Moana, and Moana, we see Tamatoa getting shifted around and everything like that, and he goes from his big shiny form into like this more he's like got all like the, I guess it's like tribal paint type of thing or whatever, that's like fluorescent stuff, so he like glows when he's trying to fight Maui and everything. And Moana ends up, she grabs like this barnacle and she covers it in like this fluorescent, glowing gem or algae type stuff, and she tricks Tamatoa, and she grabs the hook, and her and Maui escape, and they make it back to the top of the surface. And like Tamatoa is like knocked over, and he lands on his back, and he's like, "Did you at least like the song?" And Maui and Moana escape, and Maui and Moana are then kind of, they're on the beach, and they end up having this kind of heart-to-heart talk. And Maui has actually kind of been turned into like a half shark, half human. So he's like shark from the waist up and like human from the waist down. So he's like shark head. So it's like, it was like him version of swearing type of thing, which is funny. And they end up having this big whole conversation where Moana learns more about Maui's past, how he was this, born to mortals, but his parents didn't want him, so they threw him away, and he was raised by gods. And then he was then, made a demigod, and he went back to Earth and became like this hero of all, and did all of these great things because, he wanted basically wanted his birth parents to accept him. And like, no matter what he did, appeared to be good enough for them. He did all the stuff that he said that he did in, the You're Welcome song, planted in, gave him coconuts, pulled up islands, moved the sun, like all this other stuff. And, Moana and Maui, they have this big heart to heart, which I just kind of love this moment. And, Moana is like, trying to get them sailed to, being able to sail to where Te Fiti is. And in that time frame, her and Maui kind of fully connect more, and she helps him figure out how to, use his hook again, because he kind of has to believe himself in order to use the hook, and she kind of helps him with that. And he's teaching her more about sailing and wayfinding and different things like that. And helping her get better that way and everything, and like the ocean's there and having fun. And at one point, like Heihei just like I'm assuming like the ocean has just gotten fed up with like Heihei jumping off the boat or falling off the boat, and it just like grabs Heihei when he falls in the ocean again, puts him into this like basket that has a top, and then puts that basket, put him into the basket, put the top on the basket, put the basket into the into the storage hold, and then like put the lid on the storage hold, like stay type of thing. Which I just find so funny. And then Maui and Moana make their way to where Te Fiti is. And unfortunately, Te Kā appears. And, they're trying to fight their way through Te Kā to get to where Te Fiti would be on the other side of this, like, barrier wall type of thing. And, Maui and Moana are kind of doing okay, and then unfortunately, Maui's hook gets, broken, and Moana and him kind of have to hastily escape and everything. And, Moana is still very much, we can try again, we can try this again, and, there's better options and everything like that. And Maui is just kind of like, if my hook breaks, I have no more power. I can't do anything without my hook. So he flies off, and like him and Moana had this, big over the top argument. Like the ocean chose the wrong person type of thing, and then he flies off. And then this is where Moana's self-doubt comes in, and before then, during the whole time when they were like bonding and everything, they had the song about logo Te Pate. I apologize for mispronouncing that again. And it's just like this whole fun bit where like her and Maui are having fun, like he keeps shifting from like one animal into the next and everything like that, training himself up again, getting used to his hook again and everything. Like, we see him turn into like a whale, and he turns into a shark, and he turns into like a bird, the eagle hawk type thing that he has, all this other stuff. And, that's when her and Maui were, of course, bonding and everything like that. And now at this point in time, Maui's left Moana, and she's basically at her breaking point. And she's like decided that the ocean chose the wrong person. She's not the one that's going to be able to save her people. And she takes the heart of Te Fiti, and she like returns it to the ocean. And it's just like, I'm not the right person. You need to find someone else, and she gives it back to the ocean, and the ocean like takes it and kind of like slinks away, like it like literally like that like slinks to the point where it's just like, okay, fine, like you just like have no more ocean to sail on. It just like pulls away and like drops from on. No, doesn't do that. That would have been an interesting way of doing that though. It's like, fine, you don't have faith in me anymore, I make you fall. The ocean went nope. No, but Moana is just so like distraught at this point in time. And then we see this glowing version of a manta ray show up, and it's her grandma's spirit coming back and visiting her. And her grandma is trying to encourages her and to discover who Moana is based on what she has learned and who she really is and what she's lived through, and who everything that she's met and where she's come from and everything like that. And one of the things in the bonus features that they talk about, because when they were going to start doing this stuff, they did a lot of research trips to the different islands around, in the, in the Pacific Islands and everything like that, because Disney does a lot of different research trips for different places that they've had movies based in, like China for Milan, Notre Dame, and Paris for the Hunchback of Notre Dame, for going to Africa for Lion King, and then the live action Lion King, and then for like Zootopia, and going to like a lot of these different places and everything like that, to get like a good handle on like the culture and the environment and stuff like that. And like in this case, they went to um, they went to the Polynesian Islands, to the South Pacific Islands, a whole bunch of different times. And they had stated, they interview the people that live there and everything like that, and like use them as like inspiration for different characters in the story and stuff like that. And one of the things that they did is that they explained that there was this like saying that it was like, you have to know your mountain or something like that. And by that, they meant you have to know like everything that has led to you, your ancestors' history, your parents' history, your history, everything that has led to where you are now. And that's basically what, Grandma Tala is trying to make Moana understand, is that everything you are is based on all of this stuff that you've done and been through, everyone you've met, everything like that. And that, is who you are. And this is where we get the song I Am Moana, or the Song of the Ancestors, which is where Moana fully, she states, I am Moana. I am, proud of who I am. She's, who she's meant to be, who she is, what defines her. And, she sees like this, this like ghost image of like one of the Polynesian chiefs of the past that, sails by her, and she sees like these ghost ships of like these former ships of sailors and the voyagers that had gone before her, sailing through. And she, dives into the water, and she, gets back the heart of Te Fiti. And, she gets, the hugs from her grandma again. And, before the grandma, turns back into the manta ray and, goes off again. And then Moana's left on her own, but she's very determined. And she's like, okay, I am Moana of Motunui. Aboard my boat, I will sail, and I will return the heart of Te Fiti. And she, takes the heart of Te Fiti, and she's all ready, and she, we see Moana, tie her hair up in a bun and everything like that, because that'll make things a little bit easier, because her hair's not in her way then, and everything like that. And she sails toward where Te Fiti is supposed to be, where Te Kā is. And she, is getting ready to sail through, and she's like, kind of dodging stuff, and she's like, there's like this opening that you can get through, and like Te Kā can't go in the water and everything like that. And then this is when Maui shows up again, and he returns, having, changed his heart and everything. And he, is working on distracting Te Kā, so, Moana can sail through and sail to where Te Fiti is supposed to be, and she gets to where Te Fiti is supposed to be, but there's nothing there. And then she looks over and she sees, Te Kā and, Maui fighting. And, like, Maui has, like, at various points, like, chopped off, I think, both of Te Kā's hands at some point in time. And it's basically just acting as a distraction. And this is when Moana realizes that Te Kā is Te Fiti without her heart. And then this is where we get like the big epic final moment of everything, the climactic action sequence type of thing. My door is haunted again. And what ends up happening is, Moana tells the ocean to let, Te Kā come to her. And this is where, like, we get the epic moment. It's like, the parting of the Red Sea type of thing. And, Moana walks down this path, and she's singing the Know Who You Are, which is, like, we have Moana singing, and then we have, like, this reverb of it being, like, sung in Polynesian and everything. Like, they're, she's walking down this path to where Te Kā is, and Te Kā, and, approaches Moana and like calms down a bit, isn't so boiling lava hot and everything, is like hears Moana's words. And Moana is like returns the heart to it, to Ka, like comes face to face with Moana. And we get the moment where it's like Moana's like touching Taka's face and everything, like where they're connecting and everything. And then Moana takes the heart and puts it back into the spiral thing that's on Taka's chest. And that then restores Taka, makes Taka then return to Te Fiti. Te Fiti is reformed, reborn, fixed, healed. And has her power back and everything. And then she starts fixing everything around the island and fixing the island itself. And she starts just fixing everything, just basically like sending her magic out to start healing the world, from all the black that had been sent out from her as to Ka. And Moana and Maui, Maui's hook had shattered at this point in time. At some point in the battle, the hook had shattered. And Te Fiti returns Maui's hook all safe and new and everything. And Maui's like, he had like apologized for what he did and everything like that. And Te Fiti is like holding the hook out to him and everything. Is like Maui and Moana are like sitting in her hand and everything. And Moana's like, it's very rude to refuse a gift from a goddess. So he like grabs the hook and he flies off. And like Te Fiti fixes Moana's boat and everything. And Heihei survived. And Maui's like, the chicken lived. Okay. And like Maui and Te Fiti has like sent out her magic, and she like lays down to rest again with her heart safely where it's supposed to be. And Moana and Maui, they do these this big goodbye and everything. And Maui is like you're the wayfinder now. You can go back to your people, and then you can help them do this. I remembered I figured out why you were the one that the ocean chose, because Te Fiti loved to watch. The ocean loved getting to watch as like your ancestors would sail around. Te Fiti had made the islands, and I would raise the islands. And he had gone to, when he had tried to catch, when he had taken the heart of Te Fiti, he had been doing it because he wanted to help mankind more, give them more power, give them more, I don't know, just like try to get more of their affection from them, type of thing. And like there's like something else where it's like Maui had said, it was like, well, I had taken stolen fire and given it to you, which is the equivalency of that in Greek mythology is, of course, Prometheus stealing the flame of the gods, or part of the flame of the gods, and giving it to man, so then they can gain knowledge and technology and everything like that. And there's a few things that like Maui does that has like an equivalent. Like he's like, I raise the sky, and that's kind of an equivalent of like Atlas raising the sky, or holding up the earth. So there's like different things like that where there's like a equivalency to a degree. Not as many, but there's a few that have an equivalency in like Greek or Roman mythology, because lots of mythologies all over the world have like, oh, there's great heroes in it, or different things like that. And Maui is, of course, an actual type of demigod, god, heroic figure in the Polynesian culture and everything like that. From everything that I gathered from the movie and everything, they didn't just make this character out of nowhere. He was based on these legends and these myths and everything like that they had. And so that comes from different things, and that's where the "You're Welcome" song comes from. And him, and he one of the things that he does is he shows like his one of his tattoos becomes a tattoo of Moana, which I like. And Moana and Maui say goodbye to each other, and Moana then makes her way, returns to her island where she's reunited with her parents and everything. Like the island has been like healed and put back to normal, possibly better than normal. And like she's reunited with her parents, and then this is where she starts to teach her villagers about wayfinding. And Moana takes up her place as chief, and instead of putting a rock on top of the island, she takes one of the shells and she puts the shell on top of the rocks. And then, like, her and her people are now sailing out from their island to go and find new islands. And she's like teaching her father and the rest of the villagers how to wayfind, how to sail, how to voyage, how to navigate, everything like that. And, we see this, the bird version of Maui flying around with them and everything. And, Moana is very much in her place as the chief, as leading her people and everything like that. And so, they've started to, sail anew and like sail further. I think it would be interesting if, Lilo and Nani from Lilo and Stitch, if like they were like somehow direct descendants of Moana. I mean, it would explain so much about Lilo, in all honesty. It would. It would explain so much about Lilo being so different than everyone around her, because Moana was so different and everything. And like Moana was able to see, what was missing from Te Fiti, from Te Kā, was what would make her Te Fiti. I apologize if you can hear the dog barking in the background. Probably the neighbor dog is out, or someone's walking their dog or something. But, Moana is, and like Lilo saw like the good in Stitch and like sees the good in the other experiments and everything like that. So maybe there's like a connection there. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe there's a video I could do with that. I don't know. But we see that, and then like there is an end credit scene, which is Tamato is still in the realm of monsters on his back, and he's like, I wonder if anyone would care more if he was a Jamaican crab, named Sebastian. So yes, Little Mermaid reference thrown in there. So, cast of the movie. Probably gonna mispronounce this. I apologize. Auli. Sorry. Cravalo is Moana, singing and the acting voice. She was amazing. I loved her. She is now like immortalized as a Disney princess. Of course, we have Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, of course, as Maui. We have Rachel House as Grandma Tala, and I looked it up. She also, I believe, played Topaz, the Grandmaster's like assistant type thing that's in Thor Ragnarok. We have Temuera Morrison as Tui, who is Moana's father. His singing voice is Christopher Jackson. We have Jermaine Clement as Tamato, who is of course, or Tamatoa, who is of course a giant crab. We have Nicole Schwarzinger as Sina, who is Moana's mother, and the one member of the cast that is not of Polynesian descent is Alan Tudyk as Heihei, which is fun. There's other various, the other villagers are of course have different actors voiced in. There's of course the whole music and everything like this, and the music was composed by Lin-Manuel Miranda and by who was the other person that was part of this? Dang it. I don't remember who the other person was that was part of this, but there was like someone else that was also this writer on the songs and everything like that. I apologize. Of course, Lin-Manuel Miranda, who of course wrote Hamilton and In the Heights, and all that other stuff. All those other amazing things. There's the How Far I'll Go, of course, sung by Alicia Cara version and everything like that. And there's like a tail end of like the We Know the Way is like this tail end thing that they use when they see Moana, at the end of the movie when like Moana and her family are, sailing off and everything. And, the production, as I mentioned before, is, they had done so many different trips to Polynesia and to the Pacific Islands and everything like that, talked to the people, learned so much about the people. They learned how they make the different clothing and the jewelry and even the weapons and everything like that. And then like they use that to like design how the different costumes would look in the movie, and how they would make all these different things to make it, like as true as possible. They had to do like a new hair type of simulation, building off of what they'd done in Big Hero 6 and in, Zootopia and in Frozen and all this other stuff in regards to like the hair animation and everything like that. There was like a new thing that was called like Quicksilver. They had to do like a new thing for animating the water, which was just called Splash, which is a double entendre because Splash is of course what water does, and Splash is another Disney movie that had Tom Hanks in it, so many years ago in like the late 80s, early 90s, about a mermaid. No, in the mid 80s was that, because it was before Little Mermaid. And so we see a lot of that and everything, and they wanted to pay a large, huge homage to this culture and everything like that. And like they had people from the islands and everything come to Disney and like help with designing characters, help with like making sure that things looked real, things looked authentic, music authentic, clothing authentic, the way that characters were done. Like Maui was originally going to be bald, and some of the things that they say, no, Maui would have like this long hair and everything like that. And like with coming up with designing the tribal tattoos and like all this other stuff. And they did so great with it. And like there had been like this village elder that they had talked to at various points, and unfortunately he passed away before the I think he passed away either before the movie came out or like just after the movie came out. But he had said, so many times we have been swallowed by your culture. It would be nice for ours to swallow yours once. For you to be for ours to swallow you once. For our culture to swallow yours once. Show all of this, and like so many of the people that were like part of it, helping with consulting and everything like that for the languages, for the arts, for the like the craft stuff that's in the background, for all that stuff, for the dancing and everything like that. They're like this is something that they're very proud to show to their, children or nieces and nephews or grandchildren or whatever the case may be. And on the Blu-ray, there's like all this bonus feature stuff where they're like showing everything around Polynesia and like talking about how they use the coconuts for so many different things, which I love. Other appearances that Moana has been in. There's like this little side thing that's like Maui goes fishing that's on the movie. That's just like the ocean messing with Maui and Moana just laughing in the background. And then there is, of course, Moana is, of course, in Ralph Breaks the Internet, of course. She's interacted with Penelope, or Vanellope, when Vanellope goes to the Oh My Disney area, and Vanellope ends up in the waiting room where the princesses are. And, Moana and the others are about to, attack, Vanellope when she first appears in the room. And then, of course, it's just like, she befriends the princesses and everything like that. And then, of course, when they get all their nice outfits and everything that are the different, more lounging type outfits and everything like that, her shirt says shiny, #shiny on it, which is a reference to Tamatoa. I don't remember if they state anything. She has like white shorts that she wears, and she is seen, barefoot throughout the whole course of the film. Her and I think Rapunzel and Ariel are, I think, the three that stay barefoot throughout the course of the entire film. And so we see all that, like all of the characters interact, Vanellope and the other princesses interacting with, of course, Moana interacting with Vanellope and, the other characters and everything, which is just funny. And then at the end of the movie, okay, so when Vanellope is talking with the princesses and everything like that, and they're talking about like their song, which is this whole reference to the whole Disney's I Want song, which is this reference to, so many of the different Disney princesses have kind of had this I Want type of song. With Moana, it's, How Far I'll Go is her version of the I Want song. With Ariel, it's Part of Your World, part of that world. With, so many of the other characters, it's just like this I Want song, it's just like, what is it that the character wants? It's like their defining thing at this moment, where it's just like, you've gone so far and you just have to start singing, because, just talking isn't enough. And I will admit, when I first heard How Far I'll Go, even the Alicia Cara version, which I do very much love, and the version that's in the movie that's sung by Moana herself, I understand a lot of where Moana is coming from. She wants to be this perfect daughter, and everything like that, which is, kind of a throwback to like, Mulan wanted to be this, perfect daughter and everything. Her reflection doesn't show who she is. And then, of course, with, Moana, it's, she's supposed to be this chief's daughter. She's supposed to be this person who is, supposed to take care of her village. And she goes off and she does this other thing. She goes and she, finds, Te Fiti and gives it back her heart, gives Te Fiti back her heart and everything like that. And, one of the other things, we see all of that, and like Moana is like, the different princesses are like, yeah, it's like you find the body of water and you stare into it, and that's how you figure out how to do your song. And Moana's like, or I sing to the ocean and everything like that. It's like she's like, the ocean is a friend of mine type of thing. It's like, when she's talking to Heihei and everything, and like that's based off of something that they did in the Polynesian culture, still do. Where it's like, the ocean is your friend. You talk softly to it. You don't order it around. You treat it as a friend and everything like that. And I will admit, the first time that I probably ever was anywhere near the ocean. Actually, I know the first time I was anywhere near an ocean was when my mom and dad took my sister and I down to Disney World in Florida when I was like, I think 5. And I remember flashes of it. I think I've mentioned this before. But like, I remember flashes of it. But I just, I met the ocean for the first time then when I was that young and everything, and I love swimming and everything like that. And like I've been to the ocean again when I've been to California, when my mom and I went to Disney World or Disneyland's in California along with California's Adventures. Disney World in Florida. I always forget that. I always get those two mixed up. When we were in California, we went to the beach multiple times. Not necessarily to swim, but we were there. And, so it's like I've been to the ocean a few times. And like I've been, sailing on it when my mom and I were, in California. We went, like on like a whale watching thing. And I think we saw several humpback whales that were out there. Or we went to the Monterey Bay Aquarium and you can like look out and, see stuff there. And like it's right on the edge of the water, on the edge of the ocean and all that stuff. So it's just like, I love the ocean too. And I do agree that we need to do a lot better job of like, not polluting it. But of course, what ends up happening at the end of Ralph Breaks the Internet is, of course, when Ralph is, falling from the sky and everything after he defeats the giant, virus formed version of himself. Moana and the others are like, oh my god, a big strong man falling from the sky, we have to save him. And like Moana jumps into action and she has the water activate and like start going up, and like Ariel then turns it into like a slide, and just like all this other stuff that they do with it. It's like I love the princesses working together and everything. And after Ralph is woken up and everything, and he like meets the princesses, and I think it's they're like, what are any friend of Vanellope's is a friend of ours. And then Moana and like Ralph goes, thank you, and then Moana goes, you're welcome. So it's just like all this funny stuff that happens. Or I just love the interaction that they had for that. And the next movie that I will be doing, the next video review that'll be for Disney will be Ralph Breaks the Internet. So I'll be going through this stuff a little bit more, of course. I could just have so much fun just like dissecting the princess interaction scenes, on their own without doing the movie reviews. And I might do that at some point. We'll see. Because I just love that. I just love that like whole interaction of them. Trivia for Moana. Moana and Pocahontas are the only two Disney princesses who did not appear in Sophia the First. Technically, Raya can now be thrown into that as well. And did not appear in Once Upon a Time. Again, Raya gets put into that as well. Moana and Raya to a degree as well, because the series were finished before Moana came out and before Raya came out, so they wouldn't have been able to put them into Once Upon a Time or into Sophia the First. I would have been perfectly fine if like Once Upon a Time had gone long enough for them to find a way to put Moana into the story. That would have been cool. That would have been kind of cool. And then Sophia the First, it was just like the series had already ended by then. And it officially ended before then, enough for ended a little bit too soon, or so soon after like Moana came out or so, that they just hadn't been able to work in a storyline for Moana. As I said, I love the artwork in this movie. I love the design of this movie. I love so much about this movie. I love the songs. I think they're amazing. I think the acting that they did in it, the cast, the voice cast is perfect. I love the movie. I think it was so great. I loved watching it with my dad. Again, yeah, next up would be Ralph Breaks the Internet, and then Frozen 2, and then Raya and the Last Dragon. And then I've got all the Disney ones done for the animated ones. And then it'll be going into Christmas at that point in time, because it'll probably be coming, like the last one will probably be coming out sometime in like the beginning of December, like the first 2 weeks of December. It'll be like when like Frozen 2 and Raya and the Last Dragon or so, somewhere in that range will be coming out. And then I might be doing some different Christmas movies by that point in time. As in, because there's like different Disney Christmas movies, like Mickey Mouse based ones that I might be doing reviews for. I'm not 100% sure yet. We'll see. But so that's what we have from myself and my water Pokemon and Stitch. And I might do a video about like, is Lilo, are Lilo and Nani a descendants of Moana? I might do a video about that. We'll see. So that's what I have. I thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye. Bonding is not measured by the time you spent together, but by the comfort you find when you realize you have each other.